Hi guys, welcome to another video. It's Ndagire here. Thanks for coming. As always, for the subscribers, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Today's video is kind of funny and shocking to me at the same time, and it's about the Chinese or the Asian people on how they want to now say they are African.
Before the project started, I was hoping that I could identify or could be able to find the evidence that support independent origin of Chinese in China, because I'm a Chinese and came from China, and through the education process, I always believed that there's something special about Chinese.
He singled out a male genetic marker which only appeared about 80,000 years ago in Africa. So any man who carries that marker must have recent African ancestors and can't be descended from the more ancient Asian Homo erectus. Jin took DNA from over 160 ethnic groups around East Asia. Over 12,000 samples. And so what did you find?
We did not see even one single individual that could be considered as the descendant of the Homo erectus in China. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa.
For you to say the first Chinese may have been black, you just erased your own people and history and gave the 𝗬𝗶𝗍𝗀 the history. You have no honor. So first of all, I just had to Google 𝗬𝗶𝗍𝗀, and it means wannabe aboriginals. So this guy's upset because I talked about the research findings of Professor Jin Li of Shanghai's Fudan University, indicating that there is ancient black ancestry among the Chinese people. This professor talks about ancient migration patterns between Africa and Asia dating back some 60,000 years. And you can even see the likeness today when you compare the features of Chinese people and the Khoisan people of South Africa. The way I see it, we're mostly all taught one version of history, but that learning should never stop, and we should always be open to new information. And when we explore new information, I don't think it erases anything, it just adds to the richness of our history. And surely, if we learn that we might be more closely connected than we realized, that must be a good thing, not a bad thing, right?
Like, there's this pattern I'm seeing where everybody else that wants to come back in the continent, be it white people, Arabs, now Chinese, they must now kind of show us that they have a lineage of the African descent that they've always denied themselves from. Because if we are to be very, very clear on this, these are people that do not want to look anywhere close to being African. But it's also shocking where I've seen videos of Chinese people changing their hairstyles into Afro thick hair and dressing a certain way to somehow act black or pretend to be black. Like, what is the right way to put it? Like, literally mimicking, that's the right word I could use. They are mimicking what they think it is to be or look as a black person, and I don't think it's the right way or the right form of trying to understand someone's culture, or by dressing a certain way, by acting a certain way. And it all comes from what they've been fed through the music videos of Black American people, through the movies of the white sponsored movies. And I don't think it's okay coming from a place where these Asian people, specifically Chinese people, are the ones that have been like distancing themselves away from the African people. I remember in the times of Corona times, I saw a lot of news on how African people specifically were chased out of their hotels, were refused to enter restaurants, were denied things, necessities, things that need to help you move life. They were denied those things because apparently Chinese people felt and they saw that the coronavirus came from the African people and they're the ones that were moving it all over the whole place. But then come to find out it is something that they did as a people with the United States of America, allegedly. And it's like crazy how when anything negative has to come out, they always want to put it on an African face, specifically a black face. And also I saw videos where they have galleries in China where they compare African faces with animal faces. Literally, you put a painting of a human being with an animal, for example, a gorilla, and you see them as one. But then in the world that we live in, every species has something they are connected with in some way or the other. There are monkeys, there are gorillas, there are certain animals that look like white people, like Asians, like African people, but they make it seem like everything that has to be negative has to be put on a black face, African face. But now, because Africa is coming into the realization that we are able to do things on our own, we are able to do certain things without the help of the Western world, and also because China is trying to take over the world and to beat the USA, I would say, that competition they have. Now they want to also show they are connected to the African continent, which doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I've seen really many videos that are evident that when we go to the Western countries, or specifically the Asian countries, China as a country, we are not welcome as African people. We are literally discriminated. We are treated like we are not human. And it's crazy. I also did a video of a South African teacher who was tortured, who was harassed and literally beaten by people in China just because she's African, from South Africa, you know, and she couldn't even say anything about it. She had to first leave for her to fight for her freedom. So what kind of people are those that now want to claim that they are of the African descent, but they don't want to associate themselves with African people? And you don't want to look African unless it is benefiting you. Like I said, they are changing hairstyles, they are changing the way they act, they are literally mimicking how they think it is to be a black person, but they will never face the things or the challenges that we face as a people. They cannot put their experience in a mimic way for them to feel like that's how they need to be to fit in, to be into the black community. That just doesn't sit well with me. I've seen a couple of videos on news in my country where companies that are owned by Chinese people, they don't treat Ugandan employees in any good way. There are those that literally beat Ugandan employees, like someone gets a stick and they beat you like their child. Who does that? Can a Ugandan ever go to China and even slap a Chinese person and not face consequences? But also, I don't want to excuse the fact that why these people are able to come into the African continent and do all these things is because the people that we have in leadership, the governments, the laws, somehow don't want to touch them. And it's some kind of crazy situation, like you have people coming in from the foreign lands to your country, but you can't even, you know, give them punishments. I've talked about how there's some white missionaries that came in my country and they were able to make foundations where 100 kids lost their lives, but this person was left to go back in America and they are now living a happy life.
You know, there's some Chinese people who really come to Africa to make videos, just exploiting kids, exploiting less privileged. What I found on the internet was so disgusting, and I just can't keep this to myself. I just have to come in here, voice this out. I wish you can find these people. I wish the law works in Africa, but even if you talk about it, no one is going to do anything about it. So sad. I'm really mad and sad at the same time. 我是黑鬼，自杀的，yeah. You understand what these kids are saying? Oh shit, hey gwe. Direct translation for hey gwe means black monsters, and in another form I would say that it's what do you call the N word. So was she hey gwe. The next one they are saying is what? Yeah. 𝗙𝗶𝗿𝗀, low IQ. So you see, they wrote this on the blackboard for these African kids to read it. 𝗁𝗍𝗄𝗁, 𝗙𝗶𝗿𝗀, which means I am a black monster, or I'm an N-word with a low IQ. How on earth would you allow foreigners to come into your country to exploit your own people and at the same time insult the entire black people of this world?
This was a Chinese man in Malawi who would get clips of these young kids who didn't know what they were saying and literally sell them in his country at a big price. Where people enjoyed seeing African kids say things that are vulgar, and because these kids were excited, they were just saying things that they were told to do. And it's so crazy because also when these people come, whatever things they do it in the places that are rural, places where there is less education, places where there is less laws and regulations. But that's not something I would say I should blame them a lot. I think we as a people in Africa, in our countries, we should be pushing and putting a lot of pressure on our people in our countries in leadership to create laws that are able to protect us in our own countries. I mean, if African people go to China and they're chased out in, let's say hotels because of COVID, for example, are we able to do the same thing when these people come and do shit in our countries? Or now we're like, no, they are investors, they are NGOs, now we should respect them, we shouldn't touch them, they bring in money in the countries. Like, money has really taken the dignity out of the African countries, especially the people that we have in power. They love money more than their actual people, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, I can't stand that China now wants to claim to be of African descent after all this time, but it's a pattern. I would say everybody else that wants to come back and colonize Africa in their ways or whatsoever now has to show us and tell us on how they have some African ancestry. No, let's cut it from there. Okay, you can come and you might have like 1% point something, but that doesn't mean that you have the lineage that you're now trying to force or put out that you carry in yourselves. Like, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. We should not buy into this idea that everyone that always comes in and claims that they have this line or lineage into the continent, that we should accept, especially because of the things they've been doing to the people that look like myself. It's evident these people, the Chinese, however much they would want to mimic acting or wanting to look black in whatever way, they will never get to understand the experience of being one. It's just not possible, it's just clearly not possible. I also heard on how in Nigeria there's Chinese prisons, and it's crazy because even in those prisons they don't accept to mix with Nigerian people, with African people. So why would you want to say you are part of this group of people, but you don't even want to associate yourselves in the same group? Even when it comes to crimes that you do, like, you have to even separate yourselves in prisons where you commit crimes. But also the question comes in, when these people set up prisons in African continent for themselves as Chinese, who is in control of those prisons? If these people do anything illegal, they have to go in their prisons. I mean, who is in charge of that? The African government's part of that situation? Is the law, is the judiciary in the continent part of that? Like, I quite don't understand, how is that even possible? Can African people just go in China and create or build their own prisons to separate themselves from the Chinese? Like, can we do that? I don't even blame them so much. If they are able to set up your own prison where if your people do crimes, they go there, they don't come to, let's say, African or Ugandan prisons, why would I even blame you? Because the system allows you to do that. And also, as a Ugandan, I should even say less to these things, because the one thing that we also had as something for Uganda, like the airport of Uganda, I hear rumors, I'm not so certain, allegedly, it is sold, or it was sold to the Chinese people. Our own international airport was sold to these people. So it brings in questions, and you're like, should you even really blame these people when they are able to do all these things, like claim to be now African, like trying to mimic to be African or black, coming in, setting up their own institutions in our countries, which we are not even able to do in their countries? Should we blame them, or is the people that we have in governance that, sign off things on behalf of us and sell off everything that we own, and sell our reputation and sell off every dignity that we carry as a people because they represent us? Should we really be furious at the Chinese people? Or it's like, now is the time for us to step it down a little bit, go slow in blaming other groups and looking at our own groups of people that, are selling us off in any way. Everywhere you look, it's like you want to blame the Chinese and the whites and the other groups of people, but then you're like, these people don't just come and steal. They meet with these people, they sign contracts, and through those contracts, we are sold off. As African people, as black people, we don't have anyone that is fighting for us as a people, and it's frustrating. I would say it's really frustrating. And also because China, is in competition with the USA and to the power dominancy, of course they would want to come to a place where there is majority of consumerism, majority of labor, majority of ignorance, majority of people where they are too desperate. And what is the perfect place other than Africa we are the biggest in all those things. Everything negative we have and we carry, and not because we are all those things, but also there's no real good systems that support us or help us or even fight for us as a people. So yeah, anybody else can just come claim and take and steal and do whatever they have to do. And I mean, who's going to touch them? Who's going to do anything to them? Like I said, our airport is somehow no longer ours. So why would you even be complaining of the people that even own the place that you need to use to leave your country or come in the country? Why? why would I think that I even have any power in any way? And it's really crazy. It's sad, it's frustrating, it's hurtful, I would say. Sometimes you question yourself, like, what did we as a people, as African people, as black people ever do to the creator or whatsoever? Like, what did we do to deserve all these things that are happening to us? Like, everyone else just wants to come and have a piece of us, but we are not allowed to enjoy those pieces of us that we possess, like the resources, the labor, the technology, education, the health, everything else that we have in the continent is not in our power and control. Even politics, where we vote people to do things that are better for us, they end up selling us and our resources off. So it's sad. It's really a sad situation. But guys, let me know what you think about this. Do you really think Chinese have African, ancestry? Do you think they have that lineage or connection to the African continent, or it's always just every colonizer that wants to come to Africa has to use that to get into the heart of the continent? Yeah, guys, that is it for me in the video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe. So yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.